Hello, I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van-Sale, editor of ESI Africa magazine, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio. Today I'm with Neil Borthwick, who is the Sales and Marketing Director of Poweroad Africa. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you.
Neil, Poweroad Africa seems to be the new kid on the block, but there's a history behind the company. Tell us about what you have launched here at African Utility Week.
Okay, so the brand Poweroad Africa was birthed. It came from the previous PowerTech Africa. So PowerTech Africa was a division of the PowerTech Group. Myself and Darren McAllister, our partner, purchased acquired PowerTech Africa. So PowerTech Africa has been operating for the last 6 years, supplying products to projects in Africa for the last six years or so. So that's the history behind it, and Darren and our experience has been about 40 years of collectively experience on doing business in the energy sector and in Africa. So it just made sense just to acquire PowerTech Africa, come with a solid supply, quality products, and supply them to utilities and EPCs and RPPs in Africa.
And as you say, you've got the experience already.
Yes.
In Africa, and I believe that the company is going to be concentrating on sub-Saharan Africa.
Correct.
Why this region?
Simply because there's the amount of need for electricity and electrification in sub-Saharan Africa. There's huge opportunities in Southern Africa, in East Africa, and in some countries even in West Africa. That we're looking at taking advantage of those opportunities with those projects, and being a single source solution provider to a lot of those projects. And a lot of our partners and people, the companies we represent, are from Turkey, from Poland, from Bulgaria, from China. So and we're operating as their as their Southern African office. Yeah.
So that's, it means that you actually have a global footprint.
Correct.
So the wholesale electrification market, it can be quite complicated. What has surprised you about this market?
I think the diversity of the projects and the shift from the traditional power plants and the traditional forms of generation, and renewables being more of a focus, and really maximizing a lot of the resources for Africa, such as water. So where there's water, Africa has a lot of water, and maximizing that with hydro projects, as well as also taking advantage of the beautiful sun with solar projects, and and the diversity from country to country. I mean, if we look at South Africa with the renewable energy RPP program, and a lot of other countries starting to adapt and follow suit, and that's really been about the diversity of the projects. What, let's say, hydro and PV projects may fit here in South Africa, but in Kenya it might be biomass, it might be wind. So it's really that diversity and how Africa is really adapting and taking advantage of it.
And Poweroad as a company has that diverse knowledge in order to
Correct.
assist in developing those markets. Here at African Utility Week, you've had various conversations with people on the floor in the conference sessions. What has been the discussions around?
It's mainly been a lot of rural electrification. A lot of companies are wanting. There's actually also a huge initiative and a need to increase the amount of the percentage of people that have access to electricity in Africa. I think it's at 24% now, and there's obviously plans in place from governments, from utilities and so forth, to supply electricity to more people. Conversations that we've been having there's been a lot of interest around renewables, solar is specifically, and then energy storage specifically as well, with the energy storage solutions being quite a big drive, and there's a lot of interest in that. Yeah.
I think there's a drive around battery storage globally,
yes.
And that is the one thing that is actually going to be transforming this industry. But then looking at finance, that always seems to be the tricky part of any project.
Yes.
What do you advise around finance?
Yeah, so finance is quite tricky for Africa specifically because a lot of the countries and a lot of investors, there's a higher risk involved with the socio-economic, political states. Some of them you don't know with certain governments, so the risk of investment is higher. And what I would say with financing is, and what we've been seeing is investors are much more likely and more comfortable to invest in smaller projects rather than a 25-year power plant or power station that's going to take 25 years to pay back.
Yeah.
They are rather investing in smaller mini hydro or solar projects where the time frame of paying back and making a profit is 5 years. So that kind of time frame, a smaller time frame, is much better, much more comfortable for them. Yeah.
This mini grids does seem to be the thing that's taking off quite extensively in East Africa as well.
Yes.
So, Poweroad, where do you see yourselves and the market in 10 years' time?
In 10 years, that's a long time, but I would say definitely a lot more renewable projects in Africa. I think the trend has already started to develop, and the need for renewables and the drive for renewables. So a lot more smaller renewable projects instead of having the 100 or the 2 gigawatt, for example, like a plant. A lot of smaller 100 megawatts or 75 megawatt plants. And the different types of renewables or the different types of generation, accessing that. So where we see ourselves as being a single source solution provider to Africa, and in the next 10 years we would like to grow our footprint in Africa and expand, and maybe even look at more at North Africa even. We see a lot more access to electricity for people. With the current drives, with the current goals of some countries and so forth, a lot more people will have access to electricity in Africa.
And I think that is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Neil, for joining us. Thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pomba van Zyl, editor of ESI Africa, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio.